Hey everyone, in this video we are going to solve a popular front-end machine coding round interview question, which is to build a nested comment kind of feature. So what is a nested comment? We can see an example on Reddit. So you have a comment and then it can have a nested reply, and then that nested reply can have another nested reply in it, and so on and so forth. So it can be up to any depth. So how can we build it? So we are given a JSON like this. So it is an array of objects, and what does it contain? First, an ID representing the ID of that comment, then the username, the name of the user that entered that comment, then the actual content of the comment, and then an array of replies, which will contain the same JSON structure just nested inside it. First challenge is to build this UI, to render this UI on a web page. The second challenge is to perform all the CRUD operations on it. So, like adding a comment, updating it, editing it, and adding more replies to it, these kind of things. So, first, let's see how the UI will look like how the card and the buttons will look like, so that we can replicate that UI inside our JavaScript code. So, first, we'll have a div tag, we'll give it a class called comments container. It will contain all the comments inside it. Then we'll have another div which will represent the particular comment. Now inside this comment we'll have two sections. First one, the we'll call it, let's say, a parent comment, which is the main comment, and then we'll add another div for all the replies that need to be inside it. Now inside the main comment, first thing will contain is the image tag. For now I'll give it a random source URL which I picked from Google. Then we'll add alt as like user avatar, and we'll give it a class of avatar. Cool. Next, inside will contain another div which will contain all the user details. So for that we'll give it a class called let's say comment details. It will contain all the information like the username, the comment content, and the buttons. So first let's add the username. So we'll use a h4 tag for it, and for let's go and let's give it a class called username, and give it any name for now. Let's say it's Aksana. Then we'll give it the actual comment content. For that, let's use a p tag with a class called comment text, and it will contain some comments. So this is the first comment, something like this. It can be anything. Then we'll add a div containing all the buttons for all the CRUD operations. So we'll give it a class uh, comments comment actions. Then we'll provide all the buttons. For each button we'll give a class for its unique functionality so that we can identify them. Let's call it first one like reply button, so it will have the text reply. Let me just copy paste it more times. So this one will be for edit, then last one for delete. Let me rename the class as well, edit and delete. Okay, let's format the code. Let's run this. So yeah, this is how it would look like. We still need to write the CSS as well, so let's get done with that too. Let's start with styling the parent comment class. Dot parent comment, we want to provide it a display of flex. Then let's provide it background color of white. Then provide it a little border radius. let's say around 0.2 rem. Then a little margin, let's say start with margin top of 2 rem. Then a padding, let's say for around 1.5 rem. And then margin bottom as well, margin bottom as 2 rem. And then at last we want to provide it a box shadow, so we'll write box shadow 0 0.3 0.4. Give the color, okay, 0 0 0 0.1. So let's see how this looks. Okay, oh yeah, this will be in rem. Provide some, yep, it looks a bit better. Now let's style the uh, user avatar. So avatar, we provided a fixed width and height, let's say 5 rem width and 5 rem of height, and provided a border radius as well of 50%. So border radius of 50% and a little bit margin as well, margin right, 1.5 rem. Okay. Then after that we need to fix the alignment of this uh, username and input text. So for that let's write username margin as 0 and give it a color, uh, let's say this one 555. And same for comment text as well, providing it as margin 0.5 rem and 0. And let's provide it a color same 555. Okay, let's see. Yep, okay, cool. Now next we need to style these buttons as well. So for that I'll target the comment action class, so comment actions, and inside the button element. And for that I'll write margin right, say 1 rem, padding of 0.5 rem and 1 rem. Then border we don't want any. Then background color, let's say we'll provide it blue. Color we'll provide as white, and cursor, let's say pointer. See how it looks. Okay, now let's say if there was some more comments inside the replies as well. As we can see in the JSON, in the replies there could be more comments with same structure. So we'll have another div inside it. We'll be inserting that div using JavaScript, but just for seeing how the UI will look, we'll have another this whole comment div inside the replies div. If it formatted, run it again. Right now they are like right below one, light on top of one another. But when it is a nested comment, there should be some kind of padding left for the replies. So for that, what we can do, on the top, we can say that for comment, this element will provide it a little padding left. Let's say 2 rem. So if we run it again, you see we have a nested kind of structure now. So this will represent that this particular comment is a reply of the above comment. But the first comment don't need to have that kind of padding. So what we can do, let's say for this comments container, inside the comments container, if the comment is directly inside the comments container, we don't want to have this padding. So if this is the scenario that inside the comments container we have a comment class, we want to remove the padding. So padding left 0. We run it again. Yeah, now it's fine. So this is what the UI will look like Now we have to loop through this whole JSON and render this UI for each comment. Okay, so first let's write the DOM content loaded event. So add event listener DOM content loaded, so that we so that we do everything related to JS only when our DOM is fully loaded. Okay, now inside here, first we need to get the container, which is this main container, comments container. So let's write it const comments container equals to document dot query selector comments container. Okay, now we need to write a function that will loop through all of this JSON and render this UI. So for now, let's just comment this out so we can see clearly. If we run this, right now we don't have anything on the UI. So let's write that function. Let's name this function called load UI. Okay, and we'll call this function here load UI. Cool. Now inside this function, we need to loop through everything inside the comments list and one by one render each comment and reply. So for that, let's write a for each loop. So comments list dot for each comment, and then here we'll create another function. We'll call it add comment, and to that we'll pass the parent container first. So in this case, it will be this uh, comments container, and then the actual comment. Why we are okay, this will be an arrow function. Okay, so why we are passing this parent container? Because initially we need to render all the main comments inside the inside this comments container div. But once the main comments are rendered, there are chances that a comment can have certain replies in it. So when we are trying to render the replies, we don't want to insert that part of HTML inside the comments container. We want to append it to that respective comment only. It will be clear once we wrote the full code. So okay, let's create this function called add comment. It will take the parent container and the comment. So first we need to start by creating this div element with the class comment. So what we'll do, we'll write const comment div equals to document dot create element, and we'll provide the tag name as div. Next, what we need to do is attach an ID attribute to it, and we can get that ID attribute from this JSON. So what we need to do is comment div dot ID equals to comment dot ID. Why we are doing this? Because when we will be clicking on the reply button or the edit button or delete button, we would like to know what is the ID of this comment on which we are trying to perform this operation, so that depending on that ID, we'll be able to perform the edit, reply, or delete operation and modify the comment list. Okay, next we need to attach a class to it. So comment div dot class list dot add will add comment. Next we need to create this parent element div. Okay, so we'll write const parent comment div equals to document dot create element div. Now let's attach a class list to this one. So parent comment div dot class list dot add, and the class name for this one is parent comment. Now we'll append this parent comment div to this comment div. For that we'll write comment div dot append child, and we'll write parent comment div. Okay, now that we are done with this much, we need to create the image, the comment details, the buttons, and everything. First thing inside the parent comment is the image tag. So let's create it. I'll call it, let's say, const avatar equals to document dot create element image. Then we need to provide an src to it. So avatar dot src. Uh, the image URL or the profile URL is not provided in the JSON. So what we can do for now is pick this same image for every comment. Okay, next is providing the alt attribute to it. So avatar dot alt equals to user avatar. Next we need to add the class list. So avatar dot class list dot add, and the class name for this one was avatar. Now we need to append this avatar to this parent comment div. So this parent comment div dot append child avatar. Cool. Next, what was after the image tag? We have another div with the name with the class comment details. So we'll create this now. So const comment details equals to document dot create element a div. Then we'll add a class list to it. So comment details dot class list dot add, and the class name for this one is comment details. Cool. Next we need to append that as well to the parent comment div. So parent comment div dot append child and the comment details. Fine. Now what was inside the comment details? We have an h4 tag, a p tag, and this another div. So let's create that as well. So I'll call the h1 as name element. Let's call it name element. Element equals to document dot create element. It will be an h4 tag. Next we need to attach a class name to it. So name element dot class list dot add username. Next we need to provide the text content to it. So name element dot text content, and what will it be? It will be the comment text present inside the JSON for that comment. So it will be comment dot comment text. Now we need to append this into the comment details. So comment details div dot append child, and we'll add the name element. Similarly, now we need to create this p tag for the comment text. So const comment text node equals to document dot create element. It will be a p tag. I have misspelled element here. Okay. Now we need to attach a class list to it. So comment text node dot class list dot add, and the name of this class is comment text, and the text content for this one. So comment text node dot text content, it will be comment dot comment. Oh, okay, my mistake. For the name element, we'll be using the username. Right. Yeah, it will be username here and comment text here. Next we'll append this as well with the comment details. Comment details dot append child, and this time comment text node. Cool. Next we need to create a div with the class comment actions. So let's create that. Const comment actions equals to document dot create element, another div. Now we need to attach a class list to it. So comment div dot class list dot add. Now it will be comment actions. And then we need to append that as well to the comment details div. Next are our three buttons. Okay, so const, let's call it edit button, document dot create element, and it will be a button. We'll provide it a class, so we'll call it edit button dot class list dot add edit btn. Then the text content inside that button for that button will be dot text content edit. And then we need to add an event listener to it as well. So edit button dot add event listener. It will be a on click event listener, and the function for it will create it soon. Then we need to append this edit button to our comment actions div. So comment action div dot append child edit btn. Cool. Now we need to repeat the same thing for the reply and delete button. So let's call this one as reply. Actually reply was the first one, to move it before the edit button. Okay, and let's rename this reply button, reply button, reply button. This one will be reply btn, and this one will be reply on click event listener. Will create it later on. Same. Okay, then this one for delete btn, delete btn. Okay, let's rename this as well, delete btn, and text content will be delete. Okay, cool. Next what comes is a replies div. So let's add it above here only, where we created this parent div. Here only we'll create the replies div as well. So let's rename it replies. It will be a div, and the class name for this will be replies. Okay, and replies dot class list dot add and comment div. So it will be inside this comment div only. So comment div dot append child replies. Now let's move forward. So what we have done till now is create this parent comment. Now what about its nested replies? So we are done with this part. Now we need to check if there are replies. So we have a replies array and there are some elements present inside it. Then we need to loop through them and add these replies for this particular comment on the UI. How can we do that? So what we'll do, we'll check if comment and comment dot replies and comment dot replies dot length is greater than 0. So that means there are some values present inside the replies array. If there are replies present in the replies array, we need to loop through them. So comment dot replies dot for each reply. Then for each reply, we will recursively call this add comment function again. So add comment, and this time what will be the parent container? What is the div to which we want to append the comments, append the replies? It is this replies div which we created here. So for the parent container, we'll be providing as this replies div, and what is the content now? It is this reply, and at the end, all we'll do parent container dot append child, and we'll append the comment div, and recursion will handle everything else. So we'll go through this one more time, but let's see if this runs okay. So if we run it, yep. So the first one is hi there, then it has one reply in it. So second one doesn't have any reply. Third one, the third comment contains two replies in it. Yep. So it's rendering fine. So we have rendered this UI now. So let's just quickly look through what we have done till now. We had this comments list array of JSON which contain comment and the nested replies that that comment may contain. What we did, we looped through that comments list, and for each comment we called our add comment function. And what we are doing in the inside this add comments function, we are creating this whole HTML structure. We are creating the comment, the image tag, the h4, the p tag, the comment details, all these buttons, and then when it comes to the replies, what we are checking if replies exist. If they exist, we're again calling the add comment function recursively, but this time inside the parent container. Before, what was the parent container? Before, it was the comments container. This particular div. Up to now, we were inserting an comment to this inside this particular div, but once we found that for that particular comment there are replies present, these replies needed to be appended to this particular comment div only, not to this comments container. So that is why for the parent container we pass the replies div as we seen when we saw the HTML code. And for the new comment, what will be the new updated data? It will be the replies one by one. So now let's see how to create this reply functionality here, so that when we click on the reply button and submit it, a new reply should be added on the UI, and this comments list should also get updated. So what to do when a user click on a reply button? Right now we are not doing anything, but what we'll do, we'll create a function with, let's call it handle reply, and which will be responsible for handling the reply functionality, and to that we'll pass our comment div so that we can perform the update operation or checking exactly what comment we are dealing with. So let's create this handle reply function. Let's create it here, function handle reply. It had comment div in it. Now what we want to do when a user clicks on it, let's say user click here. What I want to do is show show an input button and a submit button below here, so that user can enter the reply. First, let's create the input element. So I'll call it const reply input equals to document dot create element. It will be an input element, right? Okay, let's provide it some attributes. So dot type will be text, and let's provide it a placeholder as well. Placeholder, it will be enter your reply. Next, what can this input have? A class list, of course. In reply input dot class list dot add reply input. We'll add the CSS for it soon. Next, we want to create a submit button. So const submit button document dot create element will be a button. And what will this have? It will have a class, right? Dot class list dot add. Let's call it submit btn. Then what will it have? It will have the text content. What will be the text for it? We'll call it submit, right? Then it need to have an on click event listener. So add event listener, click. We'll write this functionality later on. First, we'll see if this much is working. Then we need to append this reply input and submit button to our comment div, right? But where exactly in the comment div, right? So our comment div represent this whole comment structure, right? Exactly where do we want to append the reply here? So what we want to append it inside the comment details. So inside this class, so inside this div, just after the comment actions, I want to append the input and the submit button. So what I'll do, comment div dot query selector, and we'll find the comment detail class, and there we'll append the reply input and the submit button. With this, it again, I'm adding the submit button. Cool. Now let's try to run this if it's running fine. Okay, let's run it here. Here we are getting one console error, which is handle reply is not defined. Okay, I misspelled it. Handle. Okay, minimize it, run it again. Okay, let's run it here. Yep, we can see a reply here. So let's okay. If okay, so this we can improve as well. So we don't want to have reply open for every comment. We can add a functionality so that at a time only one reply button can be shown. That is pretty simple. All we need to do for that is create a variable. Let's call it const current reply comment. Initially it will be null, and inside the handle reply button we'll check if it has some value or not, because if it has some value in it, what we do, we'll delete it. So dot parent node dot remove child and current. So what we want is, if I click on this reply button, reply input and submit button should show here. But if I click on another reply button of another comment, this one should got hide. This one should be removed, and only a reply button, reply input and submit button should be shown here only on this comment. Okay, so for that, what we need to do is assign the value here. Current reply comment, it will be equals to the reply input. Okay, did I use const here? Yeah, it will be let. Okay, let's see now. So if I click on reply, it is shown here. But if I click it here, yeah, it is hidden from here. Okay. I need to I need to do the same thing for the submit button as well. Let's do that too. I'll create another variable for the submit button. So current submit button, current submit reply button, right? And what we'll do, if it is here, then same thing, parent node dot remove child current submit reply button, and here current submit reply button will be at this submit button. Okay, let's see it now. We run it. I click on this reply button. Yes, both are showing. If I click here, yeah, both are removed. So the next thing that remains is fixing the CSS for this. So let's write the CSS dot reply input. What will be? Let's give it a certain width. What was the width we given to the parent? Okay, so let's give it a certain width. Let's give it, let's say 20 rem. We'll update it if it doesn't suit. Then let's add some margin top. Let's say 1 rem. Then margin right as well. Let's call it 1 rem. Next, padding. Let's say 0.8 rem. And border radius, of course, border radius 0.4 rem. Submit button will have the same CSS. So dot btn have the same CSS here. Format it. Let's run this. Check it now. Okay, yeah, 20 rem is a bit too much. Let's change it to 10. Just click reply now. Yes, it's looking good. Yep, yep, fine. Yep, that looks good. So let's handle the reply submit reply functionality. Okay, so on click of this submit button, what do we want to do? We want to insert the entered text value inside the comments list for that particular index, for that particular comment. So for example, if I click on reply here on the test user one, this one, and I entered something, right? And I click on the submit. What should happen? A new entry should be made inside the replies array for ID 3 for this particular comment, right? So let's do it. So inside the add event listener, what we want to do is first get the value inside the entered input text. So input text equals to reply input dot value dot trim, so that uh, we don't add empty spaces. Next we check if it has some value in it. So if input dot text, if it is not equal to empty string, then what we want to do, we want to update the replies for this particular comment, right? So I'll create a function for it. I'll name it as update comments list, right? We'll create this function soon. And what it will take, it will take the ID of the comment, right? How can we get the ID of this comment? We have passed the comment div to this function, and in this comment div we have set the ID here, comment div dot id equal to comment dot id. So we can pick that ID from here. So it will be comment div dot id, the ID of the comment. And the next thing we need to pass to it is the updated text that we got, which will be input text, right? Next, what we want to do is remove the reply input and submit button from here. So what we'll do, we'll write reply input dot parent node dot remove child reply, right? To remove it from the DOM. Same for the submit button. Submit button dot parent node dot remove child submit button. Also, we want to make these null as well again, right? Okay. Then after that, once we have updated the comments list again, then I want to call the load UI function again. What will it do? It will again uh, it will again loop through the comments list and update the comments. Yeah, but right now it will just add the comments below the existing one. We want to clear the UI first. So what we can do is comments container dot html equals to contain string, so that we freshly render the comments again. Right, now let's create this update comments list function. Right, let's create it here. Function update comments list. It takes the comment ID and it the comment text. Right, now what we want to loop through the comments list, right, and add the reply for for this particular comment ID. But it can be anything, right? It can be this particular one or some other ID inside the nested replies, right? So we'll definitely read recursion for that, right? So that we can go inside the nested replies to keep comparing if we have found the ID or not. And once we found the comment or the reply with that particular ID, then for inside the replies array for that particular comment or reply, we'll insert the new data. So let's see what I mean by that. So for recursion, I'll need to create another function here. So I'll call it processing, right? It will take the list, right? And what will be the list? We'll call this function here, and it will be the comments list. Okay, so first we'll loop through the list. So list dot for each, right? We'll get the comment. Okay, now we'll check if this comment dot id is equals to the comment id that we provided to the update comments list function. If this is the case, right, if this is the case, that means we have found the comment for which we need to push or insert this reply, right? So for that, if so in this particular case, what we'll check if it have a reply, it has the replies or not. So if not of comment dot replies, if the replies do not exist, then comment dot replies will be equals to an empty array, right? Then after that, we'll push the updated data, which is so comment dot replies dot push, and it will be a JSON, right? And it will contain the same structure that these JSON contain, right? Like this. We paste it here. So we have three things to update here, right? First is the comment text, which will be the comment text that the user will have and user would have entered, right? So this one is simple. Username, we can take it like for now, let's say new user, right? For now, for test purpose. Now the next and most important thing is ID, right? How to make sure that this ID is a unique one and not a duplicate one, because uh, if we have duplicate IDs, it will mess up our whole logic, right? So one way is to like go through the comment list and find the maximum ID, right? Store it in a variable and keep updating the variable, then keep updating the variable by one when pushing the new reply. But yeah, for the sake of time, what what we can do is, let's say, assume that let last ID was 100. Okay, and then here in the ID we can just write last ID plus plus. I know this logic is not right. In the input data there can be a scenario where the IDs 100 or 101 were already present. So for that, what we can do, I'll show you the logic for that as well, how we can do it. But first, let's assume that it was 100 and we updated the ID by 1, provided a sample username and provide the comment text, right? But what if it wasn't equal to it? Next, we need to check if there are some comments present in it. So if this comment contains some replies, right? So length is greater than 0. So if this comment contain a replies array and that has some values in it, then we need to go through the replies. So which will be comment dot replies. So we'll recursively call the processing function again, and this time in the list we'll pass the replies array. What will happen by doing this? We will again go through the replies array one by one and keep checking if the ID matches with our comment ID or not. And if it found that, it will push the replies to the replies array of that particular comment. Right? Cool. So let's run this and see if this works. Okay. So let's add it 1 1. Okay, we got a console error. Type error, cannot read property of undefined reading length. Okay. So we can write if replies exist. Right. Cool. Now let's check. Okay, we clear it. We go here. We type 1 1. Yup, it is added. Let me minimize it so that it looks more better. Right. So we added a reply to this one. Let's add one more nested reply. 2 2. Cool. This one is also working. There's a nested reply. Now add another 3 3, let's say. Yeah. So it's working fine. So the reply functionality is working now. Now let me show you the unique ID logic that I was talking about. How to get the unique ID every single time. Okay, so let me paste it here. So this will be the logic to get the unique ID from a comments list. What we are doing here is we have created a function called get unique ID, and what it does, we initially take a max ID as 0, then we loop through the comments list and find the maximum ID we can find. How we are doing it? We are looping through the comments, right? If the comment.id is greater than max ID, we are updating the max ID. Same thing we are doing with the replies. If replies exist, we loop through the replies and we keep comparing if reply.id is greater than max ID. If it is the case, we update the max ID. Doing so, at the end, we'll get the maximum ID present in our comments list, right? And at the end, we'll add 1 to it so that our last ID will always be a unique one. Okay. Yeah. So let me show you by running it one more time. Okay, so let's start with this second comment, right? Because the second comment had no replies to it, so we reply to it like reply 1 commit. Yes, reply 1 is added. Reply 2. Yes, reply 2 is added. Then reply 3. Yep, reply 3 is added. In a nested way, it is working fine. Yep. And if we console log it, yeah, right? If we console.log, let's say comments list here, list. Okay, we run it again. Open the console, clear it, and if I add my first reply here, you'll see this 1 1 reply is added here with the name new user, right here, with the ID is 7, because the maximum ID that we have in this list was 6. So the new reply was added with ID 7. So in most cases in interview, usually this is what the interview is expecting, right? You render the UI and you implement the reply functionality so that nested comments can be implemented, right? So, but yeah, let's complete the edit and delete part 2. So let's add the delete functionality now, right? So in the delete button, on click of delete button, we are not doing anything. Let me write a function. We'll call it handle delete, right? And we'll pass the comment div to it. Similarly, as same what we were doing for the reply button, right? Now let's create this handle delete function. fun handle delete. It will have comment div in it, right? So inside this remove by comment ID function, what we'll do the same thing that we were doing while adding a new reply. We'll use recursion here as well. So let me just copy paste it and let me go through it one more time to show you what we were doing. So we have created a function processing which we'll be calling recursively, right? So we have passed comments list to it. Okay, so we'll loop through each comment one by one, right? And if there are replies, we'll loop through the replies as well, right? But important thing is when we encounter this condition, when comment.id is equal to the comment id that we pass to this function, that means we need to delete this comment. Now how to delete this comment? Okay, so instead of Having this logic, we'll need to use the splice method here. Okay. And for that, we'll need the index as well. So I'll add index here as well. Okay. And inside here, what I'll write, list dot split. First, we provided the index, right? Then we provided the delete count, which is 1. So it will delete that particular um, element in the list array, right? At that particular index. Okay. So now this is done. Let's run it to see if this is working fine. Okay. So this second comment does not have any reply in it. Let's add few replies to it. One. Okay. And another nested one. One more nested reply. Okay. Now let's try to delete them one by one. First, let's try deleting this one. Third. Yep, it's working fine, right? Now let's delete this one. Two, two. Okay, now this one, fine. And also if I delete this top one, either this Yo Himanshu one will also get deleted. If I do that, yep, it's working fine. So we have completed the delete functionality and the reply functionality. And I'll leave the edit functionality and the feature to add new comments up to you, right? You can play with the code, try to edit yourself. It's pretty similar to what we have done up to now. If you understand how we have implemented the edit and delete functionality, it will be pretty easy for you to implement the add and edit functionality as well, right? But if you still find any issue in implementing all of these features, this is the fiddle containing the whole code, right? With the add functionality, edit functionality, right? All of these things. I'll be adding its link in the description of this video. So if you face any issue, you can go through it and learn more. So this was it for this video. Thank you for watching.